Hello Runescape fans and welcome to another episode of Quick Lore. In this episode we're going to be looking at everyone's favourite crystalline goddess of light, Seren. We'll look at her beginnings, that time she shattered herself into millions of pieces, and the circumstances around her return to Gielinor. Now, as with every episode of Quick Lore, this video is designed for people who are beginners to the lore of RuneScape, not players who have pored over the lore for years. I'm only going to be touching on the big topics and not diving into every minute detail. So you don't need to tell me that I've gotten something wrong every video. I haven't got it wrong, I'm just skipping details. So with that out of the way, let's get going. Seren is one of two beings created by the elder god Mah, and was made to represent the light energy of the universe. Her brother is Zaros, and he represents the dark energy in the world. I'll look at Zaros in another video, so if you're not too certain on him, don't worry about it. By virtue of being handcrafted by an elder god, Seren is one of the oldest gods alive. She has a special connection with the elves, so much that they will wither and die if they're not in her presence. Seren views herself as a protector of the elves, but not a god of the elves, which is a moniker that she's tried to shy away from in recent times. Now, in regards to beliefs, she's a pacifist like Armadillo, but wherein he'd fight injustice to the death if need be, Seren is chill and doesn't want to be involved in more combat with other gods. She wants to just step back, play it cool, and let mortals live freely and as they choose. Idealistically, I would say that Seren is very close to Guthix, who, no surprise, she's really good friends with. Her symbol is a bluish diamond. Now, as mentioned before, Seren and her brother Zaros were created by Mah to ease her boredom once she had woken up on the planet of Freneskae alone. Seren and Zaros were made as opposites of each other, and as such share a connection which exists to this very day. After being created, Zaros soon begins to resent his creator and tells Seren of his intentions to leave Freneskae and start his journey to become an elder god. He asks Seren to join him, but she refuses, feeling that she's indebted to Mah and needs to stay behind to look after her mum, which is nice. Zaros leaves angry, and Seren vows to do everything in her power to prevent Zaros from ascending any time in the future. Now, real talk, I don't have children, I can barely look after myself. However, if I did, I imagine it'd suck if they randomly up and left home. Mah certainly knows what I'm talking about, as she began to struggle when Zaros left. She began having nightmares, from which spawned the Majorat race. Creating a brand new species in your sleep is tiring, and Seren knew this. So, to keep her mother kinda safe, she manipulated the Majorat into performing a ritual every 500 years, in which a Majorat would sacrifice themselves, in effect replenishing Mah's energy reserves. This ritual is known as the Ritual of Rejuvenation, and is a really big sticking point for the Majorat. They really hate that they have to do this. At some point, Mah falls into a coma, and Seren realises that there's no more she can do for her mother, so decides to depart Freneskae in search of greener pastures. During Seren's travels through the multiverse, she comes across a home planet of the elves known as Tarddiad. She fell in love with the way that the elves lived peacefully with the planet and revealed herself to them, soon becoming their patron god. She teaches them how to sing crystalline to tools, and the elven race begins to prosper. While elves live a long time though, they're not immortal. After the death of one particular elf, whose name I can't pronounce, Seren tries to find a method of expanding the elves' lifespans. This leads to the entire race being inextricably connected with the god. If they're ever to spend time away from Seren, they become sick and they die. Which, clingy. This is where Seren's BFF Guthix comes in. The two met while Guthix was visiting Tarddiad, and they quickly become friends, bonding over their mutual belief in peace and harmony. On Guthix's recommendation, Seren uses the World Gate to bring large numbers of her elven followers to Gielinor, at which time they begin to build a home in Taranwen, seeing as they love the perfect planet so much. Seren gives a piece of herself to every elven clan, and over years, Prifddinas, the grand crystal city of the elves, is built using crystal from their homeworld. In general, the races of Gielinor thrived under the joint guidance of the two gods, but Guthix grew uncomfortable with the way that the mortals worshipped him. He decides to go to sleep, hoping that when he awakes, the mortal races will have forgotten all about him and just got on with their lives and been peaceful and awesome. Although she agrees with Guthix, Seren refuses to leave as she's worried what her absence would do to the elves. Scared that the elves' reliance on her presence was proving detrimental, during the Second Age, Seren attempts to distance herself from them. She does this by slowly embracing some dark energy that exists in the underground pass near to Prifddinas, in the hopes that it would diminish her light energy and the connection that the elves have to it. Eventually, this plan backfires, as a particular clan of elves, the Iowerth, begin to become obsessed with the dark power instead. Once again ruled by fear, which is a recurring theme for Seren, she isolates this dark energy from herself, and the manifestation becomes known as the Dark Lord. Seren orders that it be locked away in the Temple of Light, so that it can't harm anyone further. Around this time, Zaros, who has been on the planet building up his strength for some time, manages to secure the World Gate from Seren's forces, meaning that the elves are cut off from their homeworld and the source of their crystal. During much of the Third Age, Seren was not active in the battles of the younger gods. Instead, she stayed back and protected the elven lands. Once Guthix had returned, the edicts were in place and most of the gods had been banished. Guthix approached his friend and asked her to leave the planet, as his edicts were non-negotiable. Gielinor must be god-free. Not wanting to truly leave her elves alone, though, Seren shatters herself into loads of separate pieces of crystal, many of which are repurposed by the elves to expand upon Prifddinas in her absence. This is their way of keeping their goddess close, even if she can't properly be with them. Now, for all of her anxiety about leaving her followers alone, it seems that Seren is justified. With her gone, the Iowerth clan begin to side more and more with the Dark Lord. Eventually, the clan turn on the others and seize control of Prifddinas, closing it off to all outsiders and reverting the entire city back into a crystal seed. Prifddinas stays in this seed state until the player completes the Elf series of quests. I won't go into detail here about them as I don't want to spoil them for anyone, but suffice to say that after 9 long, grueling quests, Prifddinas is returned to its former glory by the adventurer uniting the 8 surviving clan leaders and destroying the Dark Lord. Once Prifddinas is back, the parts of Seren that went into building the city begin to grow in power, to the point that the clan leaders then decide that it's time to bring their goddess back. During the Light Within quest, the adventurer is tasked with collecting several large shards of Seren's crystal remains and performing a ritual which restores her power. She then takes up residence in the Tower of Voices at the centre of Prifddinas, where she vows to take on more of an advisory role to the elves, instead of being an outright god to them. There are some quests that include Seren, namely Children of Mah and Freneskae's endgame, but I've decided that as these quests are both less than a year old, I won't talk about them as it's difficult to do in a way that is non-spoilery, and I don't really want to ruin the experience of playing through them. Now, there we go. There's most of the lore needed to understand what Seren is all about. To recap, she's a crystal lady that loves the elves, loves peace, and has a really good relationship with Guthix. What do you think of her? Are you a fan? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. Personally, I dig her pacifist kind of ways, and the way that she's sympathetic to Guthix's beliefs. Taking a step back and letting the elves lead themselves is a cool thing to do. However, she's never actually bothered with any race other than the elves, which is a kind of a deal breaker for me, but you know, hey, that's just me. If you enjoyed the video, then please give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this one, Thank you very much for watching.